The Washington Capitals are on a winning streak right now, and Dan Holmi of Locked On Capitals joins us to discuss how they're getting it done and what the keys are going forward for this team to maintain this success. We've got that and a whole lot more coming up on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here, and welcome everybody to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On Capitals, Dan Holmi. And Dan, nice start for the Washington Capitals. What is it now, 3 wins in a row?
3 wins in a row, and, they got off to a bit of a slower start. In game one, we're still at the beginning of the season, but Spencer Carberry wasn't afraid of taking the lines and putting them in a blender. And ultimately, that is why the Capitals are in the position that they're in. We see the second line playing very well with PLD and Tom Wilson, who has scored 5 goals in 4 games. That there's a lot to love as a Capitals fan.
So talk to me about Tom Wilson. What has been the key to his fast start?
Well, what they did this season is they moved him to the second line. In previous seasons, he had spent time on the top line right wing. So he's playing second line right wing with PLD, Pierre-Luc Dubois at center, and Connor McMichael at left wing. And a change this season due to injury as they have Dylan McIlrath on the blue line, who is a notorious tough guy. And I think it takes a lot of the pressure off Tom Wilson of being that tough guy. One of the things that I heard him say in another podcast is he starts to realize the older he gets that I'm better served being out on the ice than in the penalty box, that I don't have to fight every guy in the league, that if you are a fourth liner AHL call-up that's trying to make a name for yourself, I don't need to fight that battle anymore. I've been in the league for a long time. So he's concentrating on what he does best, and that's score goals. He's not a Reeves. He's not a Rempe. He's a legitimate goal scorer.
Talk to me about Dylan Strome. He's off to a really nice start as well.
Yeah, just doing what he does best, playing on that top line center position with Alex Ovechkin and Alexei Protas, and just has a really high hockey IQ, sees the ice very well. And I take a look at the last game in particular. It's just the coaching. Everything is firing on all cylinders with his team. I saw that it was Alexei Protas and Alex Ovechkin screening him and Dylan Strome driving it home. It's just, that's the biggest thing. He has a good shot. He has a great hockey IQ, like I said, and just a really great all-around hockey player.
You talked about the goaltending. What's going on there, and how is it working out so far?
Well, it's an interesting battle, to be clear here, as we take a look at Logan Thompson and Charlie Lindgren, both netminders entering into contract years, or this is the last year they're under contract. And the number 3 netminder, this is where the plot thickens. Hunter Shepard, well, he is also in a contract year, and it is ultimately bringing out the best in those respective netminders. We see Logan Thompson playing huge, Charlie Lindgren playing huge, and the Capitals at the end of the day, well, they're reaping the benefits of all of that. And it's an interesting thing. As I went into this season and I looked at the netminding situation, I saw, well, Darcy Kemper got traded out to the Kings. This is going to be an excellent opportunity for Hunter Shepard. But we take a look at former GM BMAC. He was able to get a 30,000 look view of this team, widen the lens and say, hey, we know that Charlie Lindgren was good last season, but is he going to be another great netminder this coming season? And if not, that's going to put a tremendous amount of pressure on Hunter Shepard, who's a bit of an unproven commodity. So they traded for and acquired Logan Thompson, 2 great netminders for under $2 million. I'm loving it. And the Capitals, I think, are in a really great position. And if one of them gets injured, their pipeline in net, we have Hunter Shepard and Clay Stevenson. The Capitals are sitting in a good position.
Gotta love organizational depth. So obviously you got to be pleased with the 3 straight wins, but what is your biggest concern about this team after 4 games?
Well, I'm riding a high after the last game. Tom Wilson, OT winner. I'm pumping my fist. However, the Capitals gave up 2-goal leads a couple times in the game. That's something that needs to be cleaned up. Now, to be fair here, this is a really good New Jersey Devils team. Markedly better with Sheldon Keefe pushing the buttons, pulling the strings there, that I think that, the Capitals should have played better. If I'm going to cut them some slack, it's that they were playing the Devils and that they're a really good team. So they're just going to have to find a way to overcome. And also, if I had to pick another thing that needs to get cleaned up is the power play. You have to make the most of those opportunities. And it's the analytics earlier in the season that we don't necessarily look at, the PP, the PK. But as you get later in the season, you start to look at the season and go, that would have been a game that we would have won had we scored a PP goal. Or if we would have killed off that penalty, we would have won this game. So special teams is something that necessarily isn't glaring in the beginning of the season. But as we get longer and longer into the season, it becomes more apparent that you need to clean those things up. If you're on the power play, score a goal, kill off the penalties. It's all basic stuff. But those are a couple of the things that the Capitals need to clean up. Maintaining leads and working better on the PP.
Give me the name of a guy who has been a pleasant surprise this year so far, but who is kind of flying under the radar nationally.
Well, we take a look at it, and it's a player that isn't on the big team right now, but I think will be at some point, and that is Ivan Miroshnichenko, who is killing it for the Hershey Bears, has scored 5 goals in 5 games to start the season with Hershey. Now, this was a guy that was cut very late, just based on the fact that we had Jacob Vrana. That would be another name, I guess I would add to that mix as well. That I think that as soon as an injury happens or there's any deficiencies or shortcomings in play, we'll see a call up by Ivan Miroshnichenko, a great scoring forward, that I think another step forward for the Capitals. It's interesting as we take a look at this, and I was talking to you just last season about how this is one of the oldest teams in the league. That's changed a lot in the offseason, and that was due in large part with TJ Oshie going on the LTIR, Kuzi terminating his contract, Nick Backstrom going on the LTIR, that, wow, we got some money to spend, and the Capitals made the most of that by picking up big names, PLD, Chychrun, Logan Thompson, these kind of players, Matt Roy, that the Capitals are in an excellent position, and I think optimism surrounds this organization more so this year than it has in the last few years. So as a Capitals fan, I'm really riding a high with how this team's doing it. They have a couple tough games coming up against the Flyers back to back. So I'm hoping that they can keep this winning streak going, and Tom Wilson can do something crazy and score another goal.
Obviously got to ask about Alex Ovechkin watch. He is chasing Wayne Gretzky's all-time NHL goal record. 4 games in, 1 goal, 3 assists. So he's a point-a-game guy still. But talk to me about how he looks so far, and has the switch from the left side to the right side affected his offensive game?
It has to an extent. He's chipping in with the assists. As we saw, he got his 700th assist. So he's knocking down all these milestones between here and Gretzky. So at the end of the day, wow, the accomplishments. But, I'm not going to worry about it too much. And the goal that he did get this season, last game, wasn't a pretty goal. It bounced off him, a Devils player, and into the back of the net. And he's like, I guess I'll take it. But one of the things that John Carlson and Tom Wilson said is never doubt the big man. I was talking with you about this last season about Alex Ovechkin getting off to his slowest start goal scoring wise in his entire career. Ended the season, all things considered, pretty good. So it's really early. I do expect that to chip in at some point. But one of the things I know for sure is switching him over to that right wing is trying to give the opposition some different looks. I think that him Slamming home the puck from the left dot on the power play is predictable. The netminders are set up for it. And at 39 years old, I don't think that shot is quite as lethal as it once was. So I think they're trying to shake up the snow globe a little bit and give the opposition some question marks. And what is he going to do? It's been some great hockey to watch. And hey, he's chipping in with assists, and all things considered, still some great hockey to watch by OV.
All right, Dan, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And of course, the podcast is available wherever you find your podcasts and on YouTube.
All right, Dan, thanks so much. Always a pleasure.
Great talking with you.
Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you could start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you could check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And look, this is the best time of the year for sports and sports betting. You've got baseball playoffs in full swing, college football, pro football in the middle of their seasons. Hockey is underway. Pro basketball is getting underway. So much. Check out all the odds for your favorite teams at FanDuel's website right now. Just, again, get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Head over to FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.